Now let's just make sure YouTube is doing what it's supposed to do. Yep, we're live.
All right, here we are, live and direct.
Yes, it is 4 o'clock. So you know what time it is, y'all. We want to welcome y'all to the Discovery Within podcast, where we explore the depths of self-discovery and personal development. I am your host, Tiarra, Denise.
And I am your co-host, LJ the Peacemaker. And this is episode 10 of the Discovery Within podcast, which it feels so good to say that. And today we are going to be talking about protecting your peace and energy, the art of setting boundaries. So we got a lot to share with you.
Yes, yes. So if you're tuning in with us right now, we want you to join the conversation with us. Feel free to comment and go ahead and like the video and make sure you subscribe to the channel. And if you're going to catch the playback, make sure you leave a comment because we want to hear from you. Let us know if anything resonates with you. But without further ado, we're going to get right into it.
Yes.
So, episode 10.
Yeah.
Episode 10.
Don't that feel good?
Yes, our first 10 episodes. That's major.
Yes. And I mean, this is a bi-weekly podcast, so that means for 20 weeks we've been focused. So that's super exciting
Yes,
as well. What a major accomplishment.
yes. So let's get into it tonight. We're going to be talking about protecting your energy and your peace, the art of setting boundaries.
Yes.
I think this is a big one because it takes me back to, episode 6 when we was talking about the art of letting go. And I feel like this one coincides with that one because, when it comes to, standing in your truth, taking leadership of your life and putting yourself first and pouring into you, walking that self discovery path, it comes with, a lot of goodbyes and, letting go of people, places, and things that no longer serve you. And we know with that, when you finally choose you and you just say, you know what, I gotta get me this time. I don't really have much space and room to, give all of my energy to pour into others. So it's just a me thing right now. But we're met with so much pushback when it comes to, choosing ourselves and letting go. So that's why when you're walking this path and you're finally, letting go and taking charge of your life, that's when you're gonna start to have to enforce boundaries because the people that were once in your life, they probably ain't gonna like the fact that trying to put up these boundaries and you choosing yourself. And I'm pretty sure we can both, share some stories with that, especially, when it comes to choosing yourself. Because when you're a people pleaser, and I know there's plenty of people pleasers in the world, I know that they can attest to when they finally decided to, take all that, drop all the baggage and just let go and choose themselves and take care of themselves and put themselves first. They were met with a lot of pushback when it came to this. So that's why we talking about this tonight. You gotta, protect your peace and your energy. Because when you really choose you and you're walking this self-discovery path, it's gonna be a lot of people that's not gonna like the walk that you walking. And that's none of your business. You gotta keep on walking and keep doing you. So you gotta identify ways to, make sure that you're enforcing those boundaries because now you have to take care of yourself, your path, your peace, your energy as you continue to walk your path. And other people, when you allow other people to guilt trip you or make you feel shame or guilty about choosing you as if it's a selfish act, then that's when you have to stand firm in your boundaries.
Yes. I mean, absolutely. It's like we talk so much about self-care, and boundaries are one of the primary methods of self-care. They're one of the first things that we have to really begin to implement because if you're trying to make a change in your life and move in a new direction and go on this self-discovery journey, then it's new for you, and it's like a newborn baby. A baby needs to be protected. You need to protect it, incubate it, nurture it. And so these are what these boundaries allow us to do, to protect the new life that's springing forth, before us, and allowing us to really nurture it so that it can get stronger. And I mean, it's up to us to be honest with ourselves with regards to what we need, what those boundaries are going to look like, and really give ourselves grace and room to begin setting those boundaries. Because if you haven't been setting boundaries, or maybe you don't have boundaries with particular people or particular things, you're not going to immediately set a strong, hard boundary. Like, typically that would set you up for failure, because there's always going to be some kind of pushback with regard to the boundary. You know what I mean? Even with yourself, it's something new, so you're going to even feel weird with it. So it's for us to really just set small objectives, small goals, a boundary that you can maintain. And as you strengthen yourself with that, then the boundaries can get stronger. But ultimately, we have to make sure that we're setting clear and healthy boundaries. And it comes from us listening to ourselves. Like, wait a minute, when this person talks to me like that, it doesn't feel good. I don't really like it. And recognizing, okay, I need to establish some kind of boundary here. And give yourself room to think about it. Figure out what that means. What does it mean? Does it mean maybe I shouldn't go around them? Or does it mean as soon as they start saying something I don't like, I give myself the room to exit? And really just giving ourselves enough space to figure out what those healthy boundaries look like for us, because healthy boundaries are a part of self-care and a part of us loving ourselves. So we have to definitely know that it's necessary. It's absolutely necessary, or else we're dishonoring ourselves.
That's right. You got to think about, it was like you was talking about, if somebody talks to you a certain way, you know how you feel. Like, you have to identify the feelings that you have to know when it's time for you to set boundaries, because you got to think about things like overwhelm, frustration, and stuff like that. Those are clear indicators that you may need to set boundaries, because as a, like, people that are people pleasers, I'm a former people pleaser. I know in my journey, I am a person. I know I do a lot of things. I can take on a lot. I got a lot of energy to do a lot of things. And being connected to, friends, family, business partners, or whatever, they could see that, because other people see you, sometimes better than you can see yourself. And they would look at me and just come to me and dump everything on me, or Tiarra, do this, Tiarra, do that. And then here I am. Yeah, I'll take care of it. And it's like, it gets to a point where you're carrying a full load of things and you're neglecting yourself. And then you end up being frustrated, and or you may feel overwhelmed, and then that turns into resentment for the people that are around you, whether that's your loved ones, business partners. It really doesn't matter. And you feel that resentment, but it's like, now you're harboring in so much feelings and emotions that you're not releasing, because you're not advocating for yourself. So that's like a clear indication whenever you're feeling a certain type of way, when you feel like certain things aren't being reciprocated towards you, when you're out here, you're giving, you're doing, and it's not coming back, and you're resentful in the end, then that means you got to check yourself and sit there and really identify what it is that you're doing. And you have that sit down with yourself, and then you tell yourself what's going to flow and what's not going to flow. But then you have to have that courage to stand up to your loved ones, because I know in society, especially when you have these roles as like a mother, on your job, career, it really doesn't matter. Whatever role that you carry, you're gonna want to, make sure that you're taking care of all your responsibilities and doing all that you need to do. But at some point, when you're taking on too much to the point that you're not even taking care of your physical body or your mental or your emotional health, then it's time for you to advocate for yourself. You got to say something. You got to open your mouth. And it does take courage, but it's just plain and simple, because you really don't even have room to be upset and just keep on carrying these emotions and being mad at the people outside of you. if you're not communicating and saying what is going on with you. If you got too much on your plate and you need some help or you just can't do it, you just got to be straight up with people and tell them, look, I can't help you. And sometimes it's just as simple as that. Sometimes you just gotta be straightforward. And I know with sometimes when it comes to setting boundaries, it can be a challenge for some people because they're just not used to doing that because they feel like they don't want to upset nobody or they don't want to have any type of confrontation with people because they're afraid of how someone else may react. When the truth is you don't really have no control over how nobody else reacts. The only control you have is over your reaction. So how somebody else will react to you advocating for yourself, that'll tell you all you need to know about that person. Because if you taking care of yourself and setting those boundaries to make sure that your mental, your emotional, your physical well-being is in place, and that upsets somebody else, then that should let you know that that person isn't for you.
Right, very true. And I mean, ultimately, if you've not been setting boundaries with someone and then you start, I'll tell you how they're going to react. They're not going to like it. They're going to be like, what's going on? Because you're doing something different. But ultimately, I love that you use the word advocate because that's what it's about. We have a tendency to want to advocate for everybody else, but who advocates for you? Mm-hmm. And whatever other people's reactions are outside of you is really irrelevant to you advocating for yourself. Because if you're not protecting yourself and someone else has a problem with you protecting yourself, then, it's time for you to examine that relationship. And maybe that's a boundary that you need to set. That person is not really of benefit to you or an important part of your life. Sometimes, they may be important to you, but maybe you need to distance yourself a little bit. And I know sometimes with family or, people that are close to us, we have these distorted relationships. I know for me, I've had relatives where there was a lot of manipulation in the relationships. And when I began this journey, it's like I had to set some boundaries, but I almost didn't know how because I'm like, this person always sucks me into their crap. Like, I don't even know how to begin. And so I really had to, first of all, identify, okay, this relationship I got with this person, this family member is not healthy. That was the first step. Like, it's taking me off my game. I'm starting to establish these new habits for myself. I'm on this new journey. And this person always pulls me back to some old frame of mind or some old pattern that I really don't want no more. And I had to really start setting some boundaries, but they were almost, at this point, when I say them, it's like they sound kind of silly, but that was all I had the capacity for because it takes courage to really set these boundaries. So my initial boundary I set was, okay, whenever that person comes around me, I'm going to look real busy. I'm going to pretend I'm reading. Because I don't know how to say no to them. And I know that because it's like, okay, for 20 years, you've never been saying no. Every time they manipulate you into whatever it is they're wanting to do. And it's like, so I'm not going to deceive myself to think now all of a sudden today I know how to say no. And so that was the boundary I set for myself. Okay, whenever they come around, I'm not going to engage in a conversation. So I'm going to pretend I'm busy. When they ask me a question, I'm going to just be real short. Yeah, whatever. And just keep going. And so that was the initial boundary because that was all I had. I was brave enough just to implement that. And then after a while, after practicing that a little while, I saw, okay, this is starting to work. Now, let me practice a new boundary. And the next boundary I began practicing was saying no. And again, I didn't know how to say no to that person. And I always felt like I had to give an explanation. And when you say no, and then you start giving an explanation, it leaves room for them to suck you right in. And you don't owe nobody any explanation. So the word no in and of itself is a boundary. And so with regard to that boundary, I started practicing by myself. I would be like, oh, you want to go here? No. You want to go there? No. And I would practice it in different ways. I'd be like, no. That way it was like, okay, I've said no 500 times by myself. So I know I could say it one time to this person. You know what I mean? And it's like now I say it and that sounds so funny, but it was like I was that committed to myself to setting these boundaries. So I'm like, I know that it's going to be hard for me. So I got to practice. And whatever that looks like for me, I'm doing it alone. So nobody got to see what's going on behind the scenes. But whatever it looks like for me, I'm going to do it because I have to set these boundaries, or else I am putting myself into unhealthy positions and in places that are hurting my feelings ultimately, you know? And it's like, do we love ourselves enough to look foolish when nobody's looking? Because I mean, do you look foolish if nobody can see you? No, you look like you're doing what you got to do. And I mean, you know, I share all that to just let you know, do whatever you got to do. It's okay. However, you figure out how to set these boundaries, whatever they look like for you, it's okay, because it's this process. We're on this journey of self discovery, and we're discovering how to get better and better at protecting ourselves, at setting boundaries. And so we got to take baby steps.
Mm-hmm. Yep. See, when you was talking, it just made me think, like, why does it even take all that to, you know, because you would think that, like you said, no is a complete sentence. So you would think something so simple would actually be a simple act. But when you're, you know, so used to just doing and people pleasing and like that conditioning, then you're dealing with the manipulation and you're finally trying to step out into something new and advocate for yourself. Sometimes it can be a little challenging, because I know it definitely was for me. And I almost laughed when you was like, you would pretend like you was doing something when a certain person came around. Because I used to do the same thing. I pretend like I'm doing something, because you have these type of people in your life where they just take. They always want you to do something. It's like every time they call, or they always want something. It's never, you know, to check up on you, see how your day is. Do you need something for a change? It's always, can you? And that, like, when those people come around, you'll be like, you know what, let me just act like I'm busy, because I don't even, you know, maybe they'll leave me alone. But it shouldn't even have to be like that. So like you said, it does take time. You have to take those baby steps with yourself. But once you know, keep on practicing, just saying, or like, as tough as it sounds, like, it's just 2 letters.
Right.
That's all you got to say, is those 2 letters. No, it's just that simple. But it's just crazy to me that you even have to go to those depths to pretend like you're doing something just so someone will not, you know, ask you to do something. But you know, it's a learning experience. It's a journey, and it's something that most people go through. And like, once you get over there, it's saying no is really not gonna be, it's not gonna be nothing to you, because you got to think, like, you've done so much for people outside of you. You always been there. You always been the person that everybody can call on. But the minute you say no, those people, they gonna forget everything that you've ever done for them. And that fact alone should be all the more reason why you continue to say no. Because just think about that. Someone you've always come through for, whenever they call, and you finally say no to this person, and they treat you like you just the most, I can't even really give a word for it, but they treat you like you SHIT.
Right, like they forgot.
like, like they just forgot, and then, oh, you acting funny, stuff like that. And it's like, what?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you don't want to help me out? You know why you don't help no more? It's like, can't you help yourself? And then it's like another line. It's like, even if you just finally start to take, you know, do that self-care for yourself, and you rest, and you only pouring into you, you only taking care of the things that you need to take care of for yourself, and they'll come along and they'll see you, well, you ain't doing nothing, and do I need to be doing something? Doing nothing is something to me, and that's what I plan to do. Nothing. Just because I'm doing nothing don't mean I need to be getting up and being productive and doing something for you. That's entitlement at its finest. And when you walk this path, and you're truly, you know, just tapping into yourself, you truly advocating for yourself, you going hard for you, you ain't even playing about you. An entitled person it's not gonna be a thing for you to say no to them, because those people will show you themselves every time, every time. So
Right.
it's not even gonna matter to you no more when they come up to you saying that stuff. But it's going to get to a point where you're gonna have to learn how to consistently tell people no, because they not gonna stop asking. You think you say no just that one time and they get mad at you? Oh, just wait. You ain't seen nothing yet. They coming back. They gonna think, nah, she just tripping right now. Let me just wait till things smooth over a little bit, and then they'll come back later and ask you for something else. And you, the answer needs to be no every time, even if you got time, you got, the freedom, the space to do it. Sometimes you just have to do it, like you said, just to practice it. You do it with yourself, but you have to also practice it with other people. Yes, sure, you may have had that time to, be able to be there for someone, but sometimes you just got to be like no anyway. Because
Right.
when you do that, you're really allowing them to just intrude and impose, and then that feeds that entitlement, and people to feel like they can just come to you anytime they want to, and anytime they feel like, oh, this person, they gonna do it for me, all I gotta do is call this person. No, you start telling that person no and see how they act, and then you will see that all the things that you've done for these people, it's like it's not even gonna be in their memory. It's like, dang, you forgot all that I've done for you. And it's not to bring up what you've done, but it's like on some real stuff. Like, you honestly forgot all this stuff I done did for you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like you miss out on pouring into yourself, your progress, whatever you need to be doing, the work, especially that you need to be doing for yourself, when you're always pouring into other people, when you're always showing up for everybody else, but who is showing up for you?
Right.
And then sometimes we get upset when we don't have the support, or we feel like other people aren't showing up for us. But it's like, are you showing up for you? Because it's not nobody outside of you that's going to support you and show up for you the way that you do. You got to go hard for you. You got to be your own advocate. You have to be the one that takes care of your physical, your mental, your emotional. That's nobody else's job. Now, granted, you gonna have some people in your life that'll be there to support you, but it should never be someone else before you.
Right. Right. Absolutely. And I mean, I think that that's one of the main aspects of what the self discovery journey is all about. Coming to learn that you need to be number one, because if you don't put yourself first, then nobody will. And it's as simple as that. And I mean, boundaries are parameters that we set, clearly defined parameters for what's acceptable to us. So it's like, if we are putting ourselves first, then we'll begin to get clear on, hold us on a second. This is not okay for me. Why am I allowing this? And you begin to realize that people are approaching you or treating you in a certain way because you have been tolerating it. So as we set boundaries, not only are we practicing them ourselves, we're training people on what's acceptable for us. I'm not going to let you cross this line anymore. And it's our responsibility to really be honest with ourselves about what is acceptable to us. If we don't like it, then it's up to us to set a boundary so that that
Mm-hmm.
doesn't happen. Because people are not going to stop on their own. Because if you've been letting them do it, why should they stop? What would make them stop other than you setting this clear boundary? So, it's like boundaries have so many benefits. Ultimately, they're necessary to maintain our, health, happiness, our peace, to conserve our energy, but also to maintain relationships, because it helps you to recognize who's really there for you and who is not. When you set a
Mm-hmm.
boundary, somebody that genuinely cares for you and has your well-being in mind, they're going to respect it. They're going to say, oh man, really? I didn't even know I was doing that. Okay. All right, I'll do better, or I'll do my best. I'll try to make sure I'm doing it a little differently. The other people, they're not going to like it. And they're going to be like, well, like, as you were giving all those examples, oh, you acting funny, you trying to be brand new, this and that. And they can, ultimately it shows you, if that's how they're responding to you trying to take better care of yourself, then they must not care all that much about you like they're pretending they do. And so those people, they can really kick rocks. Like, they don't necessarily need to be there. And so, granted, sometimes it's family members, sometimes it is people that we can't just cut off like that. But you need to really recognize that you can set boundaries, and maybe you need to limit your time around them, or
Mm-hmm.
just be very clear with them about what you will and will not tolerate, because that's our right and it's our responsibility to ourselves, you know. And so, like, ultimately, the word no, when we give these clearly defined no's, those are a filtration system also. It lets you see who needs to stay and who needs to go, you know. And so it's just so important for us to recognize that as we go on this self-discovery journey, it is this process of letting go, us letting go of old behaviors, old patterns, old things that we were doing that are harmful to ourselves, people that no longer fit into the new person that we're growing into. And all of these things in and of themselves are boundaries, because you're realizing, wait, this don't fit no more, so I have to cut it off and put up a guard against it, because I'm no longer willing to allow it into my space because it is not to my benefit. And it's like, you know, if we're not willing to do that for ourselves, then we cannot expect that anyone else is going to be able to do it, because they can't. And the more we practice really setting these boundaries, then the easier it becomes for us to implement them. Like, you know, as I was giving those examples about how I began, I had to practice saying no. I had to pretend I was busy. Now I don't have that problem. You know what I mean? Somebody's like, you want to do this? No, no, because I'm vigilant about caring for myself, about utilizing my energy, about where I give my focus. And that only came from the practice of it. So now it's real easy for me to say no. And I'm really not all that concerned. Well, my children is still, you know, practice. But with other people, it's like, no, I'm not interested. No, that's not for me. No, that's okay. And I mean, I can say it easily, but still with love and a smile on my face, because I don't owe them anything. They cannot do this work, this inner work for me. So therefore, whatever they're asking me for, if I can't do it for them, it's very clear. You know what I mean? Because sometimes people will ask you to do things for them that they need to be doing themselves. And even if you were to do it for them, it would still not be a benefit to them, because it's something they need to be doing themselves. And so as we do this work and we set boundaries for ourselves, those things become clearer and clearer. And you like, I'm not doing that for you. You got to do that yourself. Nobody did that for me. And it's not because you're mad that nobody did it for you. You just know certain things no one can do for you. You have to do them for yourself. And so, you know, that's what happens when we set boundaries. These things become clearer and clearer to us. And so we realize, why I'm not going to waste my energy or waste my time on things that do not serve me. And it's like, this is really what self-care is all about. How much do you care about yourself? Do you care about yourself enough to be a little bit uncomfortable and just say no? You know, it's like, you matter, and it's up to you to do that.
Absolutely. It's just that plain and simple. And as you was talking, what I heard was, don't compromise yourself. Because
Mm,
essentially that's what you're doing when
yes.
you don't have boundaries in place. You compromise yourself every time. And it's like, why do we feel this need, this pressure to feel like we have to compromise and accommodate to accommodate somebody else to make them feel good in the moment or whatever the case may be? At your detriment, because that's what happens. It's detrimental to your mental, your emotional, and your physical well-being when you compromise yourself for the sake of somebody else. Who told you you was a savior? Who told you that? Because you'll be out here on the island by yourself at the end of the day. You came in this world alone if you didn't have a twin. So when
Right.
you going through things and it's just like this. When you set goals for your life, you say, okay, this is the life I want for myself. This is the income I want to make. This is the house I want. Whatever the case may be, this is what my free time. This is what I want to do in my free time or whatever. You have these goals that you set in place for your life. That means when you do that now, that means you have to lock in with yourself. So that means it can't be no interference for the goals that you set for yourself when you're locked in and you laser focused on what you got to do for you and you taking care of you. So when somebody come up to you telling you, oh, can you do this? No, I cannot. It's just as simple as that. Because what happens when you do, because sometimes you could be in the midst of something and you're doing for yourself, and then somebody calls you, send you a text, whatever the case may be, and they're asking you to do something. Now, if you still battling with yourself and you struggling with, setting those boundaries, it may be tough you in that moment to just say, no. But what happens is, say you say yes and you do the thing for this person, you stop whatever it is that you doing for you. You could be tired. It don't even matter. You could be exhausted. Someone calls you like, I'm on my way home. I'm done for the day. Somebody calls you, asks you to do something. In your mind, your heart, you don't want to do it. And your body even knows that it don't even have enough energy to keep going for the day. And you say yes. Now, you do the thing. You're upset. You're really in your feelings because you don't say yes to something that you know that you really didn't want to do. So you got to ask yourself, when somebody comes up to you and you're really not up to really just pouring into nobody, you really just in your selfish season, and they come to you asking you these things. If it's not a hell yes when they ask, then it's a hell no. And you got to be okay with just saying it just like, sometimes you got to say it like that. And you don't got to say hell no, but in your mind and your body, if instantly somebody asks you something and instantly whether or not you want to do it, go with that instinct. It's like you have to learn to trust yourself and advocate for yourself and take care of yourself, because if you're not, then these people gonna run you through the ringer and they not gonna care about it. No one is gonna care about you the way that you do. You'll have some people that may come close, but it ain't gonna be nobody that's on this earth that's gonna care for you the way that you do. And that's just the truth of the matter. It don't matter if that's your husband. It don't matter if that's your friend, your mama. No one on this earth, no matter the relationship, is going to care for you and take care of you the way that you should take care of yourself when you're an adult. I can't speak for children, but as an adult, when you become an adult, that's on you. So saying no, that should be in your vocabulary, especially when you walk in this self-discovery journey. When you're discovering yourself and you're uncovering these things, the old tendencies. That's why we talked about the art of letting go. All those things you used to do, being there for people. What about you? Because some of us, we spend a lot of years pouring into other people. And then when you look back, you don't really see the time that you put into yourself. Because once you look back, and then now you got to heal and, set these boundaries and stuff from all the time that you put into other people, you like, man, I got to play catch up. It's like playing catch up when you don't advocate for yourself, when you don't set those boundaries. But them folks weren't thinking about that. And it's like you said, when you enforce those boundaries, you're not only, advocating for yourself, you're not only taking care of yourself, but you teaching them other people that, look, you need to go handle your own business. I got to handle mine. You go handle yours. I understand you may need some help, but you need to go find help elsewhere because I can't help you no more. And it's just as simple as that.
Yes, no, absolutely. And I mean, when we overextend ourselves to people and when we don't set these boundaries, it causes inner turmoil in us. You know what I mean? Like when you said, when they ask you something and it's either hell yes or hell no, it's like we know that. We know if we want to do something or we don't. You know what I mean? We all do. It's always very clear. And sometimes we just don't give our initial instinctive answer, but it's always very clear. And it's for us to really recognize that those initial feelings are what we're supposed to go with. Those are the boundaries that we need to set. Honor yourself, because if you're not doing that, then it begins to create inner turmoil in you. It begins to create bitterness, resentment. You know what I mean? Meanwhile, the other person, they still fine. They not feeling all that. And then you're the one who has to work through these feelings and go through all this stuff inside yourself when you could have just said no. I mean, and another thing you have mentioned about, like, when you're in the midst of something. I know for me, one of the main boundaries that I've set for myself is about my focus. Like, our focus is required in order to accomplish any goal. If we don't really focus in and make this a priority and like set aside time to really work on things, then we won't move ahead with regard to them. And that's something that I've been extremely vigilant about. I will not deter my focus. And so that's helped me to set clearer and clearer boundaries, because I've become more aware. Wait a minute, this is trying to interrupt my focus. I'm over here focused. I'm planning, I'm writing, I'm creating this, I'm getting ideas, brainstorming, just figuring out my strategy or whatever it is I'm doing, meditating, praying. It's like nothing outside is going to be allowed to come in during those times. Those times are sacred for me. And so it's like I've had to set very, very clear boundaries for myself around those things, especially in this day and time where we have so much access to us. You know what I mean? More than any other time in history, there's more access to us. People can text you any second, call you any moment. There's so many devices that we have, the television, the streaming service, like just there's so many gateways into our minds, into our lives from the outside world. And it's up to us to know that we get to set the boundary and recognize that everybody cannot have access to me at every moment just because they feel like it. And that was something I had to come to. I didn't start off in that place, but I got very clear because I felt like, oh, if somebody's calling, oh, maybe it's my mom, maybe it's this person. And it's like, they could wait 15 minutes, whoever it is. If they're dying, they'll call me again. You know what I mean? If I got 3 calls back to back, okay, maybe it's an emergency, I got to react. But if I'm in the middle of something important, I'm over here praying, like, you got to wait because this is my time, And so as I set those boundaries, then it began to evolve. So now at this point, like I don't have social media notifications on. Like, I don't care. I'll see what happened when I go on there. You don't need to be interrupting my time. When I'm doing something else, then I'm not doing that. I can't do 10 things at one time. So whatever I'm focused on needs to get my full focus for that half an hour or whatever amount of allotted time it is. And that is a boundary that it's important for us to recognize that we should be setting for ourselves, knowing when is the time that people are not allowed in, because people will keep interrupting. They'll never stop. And there's always going to be some outside stimulation that's trying to distract you, especially as you're trying to make progress, as you're trying to achieve goals. And so it's up to us to honor ourselves, to prioritize what's important to us, and make sure that we are honing in on our focus. Like, no, I will not be distracted during this time. And granted, there's always things that sometimes we do need to stop and, give other things our attention, but that doesn't need to be the norm. You need to make sure that you're prioritizing yourself and giving yourself time where you will not be interrupted and being vigilant about it. Otherwise, you will never be able to accomplish what you want to accomplish because you're not making it one of the main things in your life, And I mean, I have 3 children, so interruptions are constant. And so I've had to learn how to better articulate, hey guys, mommy's in the middle of something, I need another 20 minutes and then I'll address whatever you're asking for, and it's like that took me practice as well, because at one point I would always stop what I'm doing, and then it's like you come back to it later, you don't even remember what you were doing, you don't even know what part you were at, now you lost that brilliant idea that you had. You know what I mean? And so it's like really recognizing that we want to get into the flow, and you constantly hear that term used, like, oh, I'm in the flow and ideas are just flowing, my creativity's flowing. You will not get there with consistent interruptions. And so in order for our creativity to flow, for our ideas, and just for ourselves to get into the true flow of who we are, the divine flow of just everything that God has for us, we have to give ourselves that time, whether it's time for meditation, time for mindfulness practices. Those require time. You have to allot that time, and it cannot be interrupted. So I recommend that everyone start assessing, am I letting people interrupt time that's supposed to be sacred? Because that's a boundary that needs to be set.
Yes, you got to think about it. Your time and your energy is like one of your most valuable assets. So it's like you said, your focus, when you You got goals, you got things you got to do for you, and you the only one that's gonna get you there. Your focus has to
Right.
be strong. And I understand, like, we have kids, we have lives, husbands, wives, whatever the case may be. But when it's work time, it's time to focus and get some things done. Then that means all the distractions, they're gonna have to be on hold. But it's like you said, you have 3 kids. If they're of age, you can articulate to them that, like, this is not the time. Mommy has to get this done, and we'll, take care of whatever we need to outside of that. But I have a 2-year-old, so for me, my time will go to him, if not anybody else.
Right.
But when it comes to, you have to identify the things that are important for you in your journey, the things that really matter to you. You got to think about the time and energy that you put into that, because when you're putting all that time and energy into the important things for yourself, you're not going to really have much time to entertain outside distractions. So it's like you said, the notifications. I mean, you turning your phone off. You ain't trying to hear no notifications, because right now this is where my focus is going, and this is where my energy is going. And just like when we do the podcast, on the days when we shooting this podcast, I let my loved ones know up front. On that day, don't ask me for anything. Don't ask me to do not a thing. And I just have to be blunt with them. I can't help you. I save my time and my energy so that I can come and sit on this podcast, and I can deliver, and I can be in the moment, and I can, be present and give all of my energy to that. Now, granted, my son may be here. He'll be the only person that gets my time and energy. Anybody outside of that, if you're an adult, you can take care of yourself. But once I'm done doing and what I need to do and taking care of what I need to do, I'll see if I have space for you afterwards. But anytime other than that, you have to be locked in with yourself. You have to be the one that advocates and say, okay, this time right here, this is what I'm doing. No distractions. And it doesn't matter what anybody else needs or what they want from you, because you have to be the one that takes care of your well-being and all the things that comes along with reaching your goals. So anybody else coming and trying to interrupt that, it's not even going to be none of that. Put that phone on silent, airplane mode, do not disturb, do whatever you have to do. And when you're advocating for yourself and you true to yourself, you stand true to yourself, you gonna do what you gotta do. It don't matter what's going on. All the other stuff that's gonna have to be put on hold, because like I had said, you look back and you don't put all that time and energy into other people, and now you have to play catch up, because that's what's gonna happen every time you don't advocate for yourself. Every time you set a boundary and you really let somebody just come through and trample all over that, you're going to set yourself back every time. And now you got to play catch up. Now you frustrated. Now it's like you said, you was focused at first, but then you had the distraction. You allowed something else to distract you. Then you come back to what you was supposed to be doing, and now you ain't even got a clue what you was doing. Now
right, you don't even feel like it no more.
Yeah, you lost. And it's like, what was I doing? And then it's like you lose your mojo. You was just in the flow. When you in the flow, you in the moment, you focus. It's like you can't even hear anything outside yourself. So that's why when you were saying, like, you gotta make that time. You have to have those time boundaries, because that helps you to preserve your energy so that your energy can be focused on whatever task is going on right there in front of you. All the other stuff, it has to wait. And you got to think about stuff like self-care when it comes to mindfulness practices and stuff. Because once you get to that point where you frustrated and you overwhelmed, now you ain't got no choice but to go take care of yourself. So just do it anyway. Just be taking care of yourself. Already be doing it. Don't wait till someone else has to, push you to be able to take care of yourself, because that's what it's going to do. Everything will always lead you back to you. So you might as well take care of you off the top. First and foremost, you first. Everybody else got to wait. And there's nothing selfish about that. It's selfish for someone to feel like you have to stop doing what you're doing to appease them, to make them feel better about themselves. And for you to carry that guilt, like you have to just show up and just be for someone else. That's like that condition that a lot of us have to decondition from, that need to just show up and be there for others and be so to self-sacrifice. Because you sacrificing yourself and no one else is going to pour into you and get you to where you need to be but you. Because when you look
Right.
around, now you feeling like, man, I don't have nobody. Nobody is ever there for me like I'm there for them. And it's like, that's your fault. It's your fault. You didn't enforce your boundaries. You didn't stand on business. You didn't advocate for you. You wasn't about your business. You are your business. All that other stuff people outside of you got going on, they need to take care of that themselves. If you're an adult, you need to be able to handle your own. If you're not, especially if you're not at where you want to be, you're not living the life or you're not fulfilled with where you are, you don't have time or the energy to be pouring it into somebody else.
Mm-hmm. Right. No, it's very true. And I mean, you use the word sacrifice, and it's like we use all these words and we don't even go by the actual definition what it means. Because a
Mm-hmm.
sacrifice is to give up of something for a greater benefit. You know what I mean? So if I'm sacrificing something, giving it up, I'm willing to, all right, give up of my energy, give up of my time. It's supposed to be for a greater benefit, meaning something more valuable is coming out of this. So
Mm-hmm.
we be running around not setting boundaries, calling it sacrifice when there is no benefit. In fact, it's to our detriment. So it's like you going out of your way thinking that you're sacrificing for everyone else. What is it really doing? It's
Mm-hmm.
ultimately draining you, teaching them that they can always call on you no matter what, no matter what's going on with you, you still gonna show up for them. And what are you actually getting out of it? What is the greater benefit? And this is something that we really have to assess. Am I getting anything out of this? Because a lot of time what we're getting out of it is mad when they don't show up for us in the same way. And as far as I'm concerned, that is not of benefit. Like, it's not a benefit at all. So we need to really assess what we're doing and look at it and be honest with ourselves. I'm calling it sacrifice, but there's no greater benefit being done. It's one thing if maybe you're doing things for your children and okay, this is later going to amount to something greater. But if there's no clearly defined benefit, then it's not sacrifice. It's just you depriving yourself of self-care and dishonoring yourself because you are not putting yourself in a place of priority or in a place of value. And it's like, we are modeling these behaviors to others. So if you have
Mm-hmm.
children, they're seeing you acting like this, seeing you let other people walk all over you. And then more than likely, they're going to behave in the same way. And it's like, that's not what we want, So it's important for us to recognize that. And additionally, we are teaching other people how to treat us. If you don't like it, then it's up to you to set those clear boundaries for yourself because you are the only one who can do it. And you deserve to be treated appropriately. And it's like with regard to setting boundaries, sometimes we feel like, oh, where do I start and how do I do this? But the initial step is to assess what is getting you mad. Like, look around. What things are happening on a consistent basis that you really don't like? Begin there. Begin simply. Ask yourself, okay, what's a small step I could take to start eliminating this from my life? Because ultimately, when we are not setting these boundaries, it's taking time away from the things that we actually do care about. It's taking energy away from the things that we actually care about. And once we begin to really commit to ourselves and commit to this self-discovery journey, then we're no longer willing to give up time and energy to things that are not about the mission. You know what I mean? If it's not
Mm-hmm.
about me furthering myself, bettering myself, then I'm not interested. And so it's like the world will have us think that selfishness is a bad thing. But it's important for us to understand that there's a dark side and a light side to things. You know what I mean? There's healthy selfishness and then there's unhealthy. And so it's for us to find the healthy medium. And sometimes we may go too far on either side, and that's okay because that's what boundaries are all about, helping you getting back to a
Mm-hmm.
healthy place. But it's important for us to recognize we have to prioritize ourselves, and that needs to be a boundary in and of itself. Like, who's number one?
Mm-hmm.
Me. Because if I'm not number one, then I'm of no benefit to everybody else. If things
Mm-hmm.
are out of alignment, in your life, meaning that you're not putting yourself in a place of priority, then the energy that you're giving off to others is out of alignment as well. It's just simple as that. Because we oftentimes think, oh no, I have to do this person needs me, that one needs me, and you are deceived, because no, they don't. Nobody ultimately needs you other than your children when they're small. At the
Mm-hmm.
end of the day, everybody's going to keep living. You know what I mean? The world's
Right.
going to keep spinning. Life's going to keep going on. So these things we think, oh, I have to, this has to be done. If I don't do it, nobody will do it, this and that. It's like
Mm-hmm.
most of the time, it's really not true. And I know what that feels like, because I was in a place, several years ago, where I felt like I have to do it. If I don't do it, who's going to do this? Who's going to do that? Who's going to do that? And then when I got so sick that I couldn't do it, nobody died. In fact, I was the one almost dying, but nobody else was. Everything was still getting done. The kids were still eating. Like, you know what I mean? And it's like, oh, okay, the world's not going to end if I don't, or am not able to do the things that I'm thinking I have to do, or it's going to be a big tragedy. So it's like we really have to understand that the world will keep spinning. We are the ones who will be harming ourselves, and maybe we can't even function properly if we're not treating ourselves right. So it's so critical that we set these boundaries, so that way we become, very clear on what is necessary in life, because half of the things that we running around doing thinking they have to be done are not even necessary. You know what I mean? The main priorities are food, clothes, and shelter. And granted, we want to have some enjoyment and things like that, but at the end of the day, the world is not going to end without those things. You're going to be all right. Your kids, they going to be all right. And
Mm-hmm.
it's important for you to give yourself a minute. You are the one who is not going to be all right if you're not treating yourself with some love, respect, and care. And that's why boundaries are so, so important, because they are how you honor yourself, how you show yourself that you matter, and how you love yourself. That's what self-love is all about, ensuring that you give yourself what you need. And we so often are looking for other people to give it to us, but what they're
Yeah.
doing is feeding off the energy we're giving. So if I'm not giving myself self-love, then other people are like, oh, okay, that's how you do you, so I'm gonna do you just the same old way. And we cannot um expect these things to come from other people. It starts with us. We have to make ourselves a priority, set clear boundaries for ourselves. So that way we're setting a standard that other people
Mm-hmm.
have to follow. And then as we do that and become more convicted in doing that, it becomes very clear to others. Oh, I can't do that with her. She don't play that. And it's like, yeah, good. Back up.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
you know?
That's why you gotta get gangster with people, because that's the only way
Yes.
they gonna understand. And
Yes.
it's all to take care of you. It's all to advocate for you, because ain't nobody gonna advocate for you. And some people actually wait for someone else to come in and advocate for them and step in and save them. It's like, no, you gonna be your own savior. You the one that got to step up first. That's not nobody else's job. That's an inside job. And what's unfortunate is that I've seen and I know people to this day who still are people pleasers, who still put others before themselves, running themselves ragged, tired, depleted. But it's like, when is enough gonna be enough for you? And it's unfortunate that some people, they get up in age and they still are doing these things for other people, and then they're upset, and now they live a life of misery.
Hmm.
It's some miserable people out here carrying anger, resentment, all because they never opened their mouth. They never communicated their boundaries. They never communicated what they needed. They never stood up for themselves. And they live a life to the point where they're not even happy. And they steady dishing out and trying to do. And they doing things frustrated and upset and don't even have the energy or the will to want to do something. But it's like, when you gonna open your mouth? And it's sad, because most of us are conditioned, it's like, to just be there, be all you can be for someone, because we take on these roles and these titles and we let them go to our head, because we seen our mothers do it, we may seen our dads do it, and we think that that's the model, that okay, that was our model, so this is how we're supposed to do it. This is what I seen back in the day, so this is the way it's supposed to be. And it's like what was done in the past is not gonna work right here, right now, because everybody has their own path. If you saw the things and that happened to your parents and how that worked out for them, not being an advocate for themselves, not setting boundaries. Because in families you have those certain ones who everybody feels like, oh, this is the glue of the family. This is the person that keeps everybody together. When it comes to like family functions and stuff, you may have this one person that's in charge of getting everything together. You'll have these people depleted to the point where they just give out and they don't want to do anything anymore. But it's like, why did you not open your mouth? Why did you not feel the need? Why did you not feel the need to take care of yourself and advocate for yourself? Why did you feel the need to sacrifice yourself and get nothing in return?
Yeah.
That's what
And I mean, it's so sad.
It is. And I see it so often. It's like, to see some people, it's like you didn't even get a chance to really live and do the things that you wanted to do. And you probably could have just wanted a simple life, but it's like when you have your loved ones or whether it's on a job or something, and you feel like you have to be there because you hold these certain roles in your life. I'm like, that's not who you are. You have to discover who you are outside of those roles, because of course we all have different roles that we play in life that we have to show up to. But when it's time to put that down and you have to sit there and deal with you, all you holding on to is anger, resentment, frustration. All them emotions don't piled up. You never dealt with it. You never said nothing. You never communicated anything. And now you're mad at the world, thinking that the world owes you something, but you owe you. You owe it to yourself. You can't wait for somebody else to come along and just want to do the right thing by you to make sure that you're taking care of yourself. You have to already be doing that for yourself. And when you do that for yourself, it's like you said, you teach other people how to treat you, because like you said, you got to get gangster with them. They gonna know, oh, she ain't nothing to play with. She ain't nothing to play with. She about her business. She take care of herself. She advocates for herself. She has boundaries. So these people will know what they can and cannot do with you. But it all starts with you.
Right. Absolutely. I mean, that's so powerful what you said. You owe you. You the one who owes you. Don't nobody owe you nothing, and nobody's gonna pay up either because they don't owe you nothing. You are the one who owes you. You know what I mean? And something else that came to mind as you were speaking was about like vampires. Like if we watch the movies, anytime you see a vampire in the movie, they can't come in unless you invite them in. You know what I mean? And so that's the boundary. Don't invite them in. Close the door. No, you are nothing but an energy sucker and you're not allowed. You know what I mean? Because ultimately, every relationship is intended to be an exchange of sorts. And if you're the one in the relationship only giving, and I'm not only talking about romantic relationships, anyone that you interact with that on a regular basis, that's a relationship. And some people just want to take. And that is to your detriment. If you're not receiving anything back from the relationship, and that doesn't mean there needs to be money or material possessions, if they're not giving you a shoulder to cry on when you need it, like what is actually going on here? And it's important for us to recognize that. Like, there are energy suckers out there. Vampires are real. You know what I mean? It's not only about blood suckers. People will come and try to suck the life force energy right out of you if you let them. And it's up to you to be vigilant about it because you're the one who owes you. Don't open the door. Don't let them in. Once you realize that, okay, that's what this person is looking to do to me, deplete me, don't let them in. And it's important for us to be that honest with ourselves because we can feel it. Oh, every time this person comes around, they're so negative. When I'm done talking to them, I'm just drained. And it's like, there are people like that. We all know somebody like that. And it's for us to distance ourselves, to recognize that, wait a second, this doesn't make me feel good. And I'm not able to focus on my own responsibilities after I'm done interacting with them. I was supposed to go home and do X, Y, and Z. Now I can't because I need to go lay down. You know
Yep.
what I mean? And it's like, okay, was that worth it? You could have simply said, "Oh no, I don't got the time for it right now," or "Oh, I got somewhere else I gotta be. Talk to you next time." Whatever it is that you need to say, but why are we not putting ourselves? I mean, not saying no and putting ourselves in these situations when we don't have to. We don't have to. You know what I mean? It's not up to you to let somebody else drain your energy. It's not up to you to feel like you have to help other people solve their problems. It's not up to you. It's not your responsibility. Your main responsibility is to yourself. This is your one and only life. And the goal, the responsibility, is to do it well, to do it to the best of your ability. And this self discovery journey is about figuring out what that means, figuring out who you truly are, what you truly want, what you truly need, and being committed to upholding those standards for yourself. Recognizing what is a priority to you and setting clear boundaries so that you don't let anybody else infringe upon them. Because, as you were giving me examples about people who get up in age and now they're mad and bitter, and it's like they wasted their life because they never put themselves first or never said no. How do you think that feels? That's so sad. You know what I mean? It's
Mm-hmm.
like you lived a whole life and none of it was about you. You never went after one dream, one goal, because you were too busy sacrificing, per se, for what? For nothing? To die and feel like you never had the opportunity to go after what you really want. That's a very sad place to be. And the reality is, it does not have to be like that.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't. And it's up to you to go after what you want. Clarify what it is you want. And once you get really clear on what it is you want, then it starts becoming more clear the things that are getting in the way of it. And those are the indicators of where the boundaries need to be set. And you can start off simple. I mean, in the beginning, I gave you those examples of the wacky stuff I was doing because that was all I had. And as we practice setting these boundaries, it gets easier and easier and easier because your tolerance gets less and less for the crap. Like, you're getting in the way of my dreams. I don't think so. Remove yourself, and I mean, it's important for us to do that. If you're not gonna fight for you, then who's gonna fight for you? Nobody. You know what I mean? It's like you are worthy. You deserve to accomplish what you were sent here for, to live out your purpose. And the only person that can make that happen is you. And you got to be willing to fight for it. You got to be willing to set boundaries for it, to put in the work, to be honest with yourself, and to do whatever is necessary. And that doesn't mean go out here and mistreating other people, but it means telling people no. Telling people, okay, we used to rock like that, but I don't do that no more. And I'm not interested, because otherwise, then you will never accomplish what it is that you're truly saying you want. You need to make yourself the main priority because you matter that much. You matter that much, and you have to matter that much to yourself.
That's right. And we reached our time, y'all. But
I'm, I'm looking. I'm like, man, that was so fast. I guess once we get going, we just be going.
yeah, we got real deep at the end. But I
Yes.
just want to, piggyback off what you're saying and leave the audience with this. And this is just honest talk. Know that no one is coming to save you.
Mm.
You have to be the one that saves yourself in this lifetime. You can't expect other people to treat you a certain way, to put you on this pedestal, to give you all the things that you need, take care of you physically, emotionally, spiritually, whatever. That's an inside job. It's gonna be all on you. So you got to stand up for you every day in every way. It's like LJ said, you got to take a assessment every day. You frustrated, you feeling overwhelmed, you got that resentment, you need to ask yourself some questions. Where have I not set boundaries? What do I need for me? You have to be that one that advocates for you, because it may be somebody that comes close to it, but it ain't gonna be nobody that advocates for you the way that you will advocate for you. Take care of yourself, and I'll let you take
Yes.
this out, LJ.
Yes. Yes. I mean, man, yeah, that was powerful. Nobody can save you. Ain't nobody coming. You're the one. So be sure that you are protecting your peace and your energy. And we've shared with you some practical ways to set boundaries for yourself, but be sure that you do it because it's one of the main aspects of self care. So, thank you so much for joining us for this episode, and we will be back in 2 weeks. And we look forward to seeing you there. Be sure you like, subscribe, comment below. We love to hear
Right.
from you, and we will see you next time.
Yeah.
Peace.